Hey everybody, this is Terry. I want to give you an update on what's been going on over at my place. As you can see, I got my pickup back down off the lift. I got Julie's coupe over in the other garage. I've been driving it a little bit, and it's very fun to drive. It's interesting to drive. It's not like what a person would be used to, where you just get in and start it up and go. There's a number of things you have to do, which makes it interesting to drive. Seems like the hardest thing to do is to remember to turn the fuel on, but it reminds you of it after about 10 or 15 feet. It reminds you that you didn't do something. So anyway, like I said, I got Julie's Camaro back up on the lift. I like it better on the lift than anything else because I can run it to the highest stop and have less opportunity to knock my coconut off. So anyway, the last couple of days I've been kind of looking to see trying to figure out where I left off on this. It took me a while to find my notebook on it, which I did find. And yeah, I take notes too. I think you got to take notes when you do something like this, otherwise you get overwhelmed and forget where you're at and what you're doing and what you need to do. So yeah, I found my notes and figured out where I was at, what all my water lines were going to be at as far as what gets spaced up, what gets spaced down, as far as the cab, the bed, radiator, all that kind of stuff. I have had probably about a 1.5 year hiatus off of this project, working on house stuff and doing some other stuff around here. So it's kind of hard for me to remember where I was at. The one thing that I know that the last thing that I did that I know of was I moved the rear axle on this truck forward, I think about 1 inch, because I didn't like the way it looked. And when I did have Julie's coupe over here, it's a stock Model A, and I believe it has the same wheelbase as what this truck has, which is 103.5. I think it's like 103 and 17/32 to be exact, but 1/2 inch was close enough, more than close enough for this. I measured around on it a little bit. When I installed this front axle, this Heights front axle, I believe they referenced off this bumper bolt here to the center line of the axle. There was some other little dimensions that you had to add and subtract, but for the most part it was off here to the center of the axle was a dimension. And when I got Julie's coupe over here, I measured the center line of her axle off of this same reference point and found that there was 1 inch difference between the Heights instructions and what the factory Model A center line was, which told me that this axle here is actually back 1 inch farther than what the other one, the stock factory Model A suspension is. So that told me why I had to move that forward 1 inch. So mystery solved. Got to clean up the motor. Haven't seen the motor in quite a while. It's got a lot of dust and stuff on it. So I need to clean that up and get back into ordering and figuring out where all my bulkhead fittings are going to go, and air conditioning lines and all that stuff is going to end up running to. The one thing that I did know when I started working on this again is that I needed to finish up some work on my overhead console. This hole here is for the stereo, and I cut this hole in this week for a glove box. As you can see, it's mounted right here with 2 screws here on each side, and then if you can see, there's another couple screws back there in the back. What I ended up doing was, and I don't know if you can see this, let me get the light over here. You can see that in there. Those are 1032 floating nut plates. That gives me a little bit of adjustment to move it around a little bit. And what my plan was to go ahead and prime the inside of this and then cover it with 1/16 thick neoprene. And because I use floating nut plates, I can move this around, forward a little bit, and then wrap the neoprene around here to isolate it from this front face. That's what I think I'm going to go with. Put in 2 power supplies. This one of them may change to a lighter. Don't really know. The whole size is the same, so I guess on final assembly I'll figure that out. I went ahead and figured out how to wire the windshield wiper switch, which I'd figured out one other time, and it was quite a while ago, so I had forgot. And when I started doing all this, I had looked at the back of the switch and had negative wrote on the back of the switch. So I'm like, well, that don't make any sense to me. Everything that I'd ever wired up before, as far as like a motor or something like that, motor was maybe a contact ground or surface ground type deal, and the switch fed 12 volts to it. Well, this is exactly the opposite. It took me several hours to figure out what was going on. This switch, I mean, the switch don't care whether it's negative or it's feeding the motor negative or positive. It don't give a shit. It's just completing the circuit. This motor here is kind of like I would say your dome lights. It's hot all the time. This switch supplies it with the ground, and that completes the circuit. Your dome lights are the same way. Your dome lights are hot all the time, and when you open your door, the door jamb switch completes the ground, and that's what turns your dome lights on. So, like I said, it took me a little bit to figure that out. This thing here has a beam that runs across it, and that's right there. And what I ended up doing is flat spotting some washers. Let's see if you can see that. I took and flat spotted some washers, and I welded some washers all across that beam to give me some place to wire tie the wiring assembly that's going to go across here, because there's going to be quite a few wires going across here by the time the stereo's in, the speakers. These are speaker holes here. You know, and I got a little hole up in here for the 3 wires that are going to go to this motor. And I also ordered a bus block. I'm going to have a bus block up there. I welded some screws on the back inside here for ground. So I have several wires coming from the battery and the ignition switch up here. And I ordered a double bus block. One will have 12 volt all the time, and one will be 12 volt switched. So I have as few wires going up there as possible. What my goal is to have this as kind of just a plug-in deal, so I can do all the wiring on the bench and then screw it up here and just go snap, plug it in, and everything will be good to go. So that's the goal there. That's also the same goal down here. I have some stuff to do down on this thing. I got to do some rework on this. I don't like how that turned out. I have to do a aluminum or stainless steel brushed finish plate and bend it around here and cut a hole in it for here to cover up my fasteners for here. So that has to be done yet. It has to be wired up as well, and like I said, I want it to be the same way. I want to be able to just wire it up on the bench and just plug it in and go. Make it as simple as possible. I got some sheet fiberglass mat. I need to make some tooling to make this headliner piece. I'm going to have a headliner piece that's going to go here and around the back, and then I'll have a separate piece that goes across here. It'll all be made out of fiberglass and resin, and then all this will be covered in leather. I'm going to stop the back of the headliner, this back wall piece, right in here where this beam runs across here. I'm going to stop it. It's going to screw into that part of it there. I'm not going to worry about anything below that. This will all just be painted nice, and that'll be it on that. This is the covering I'm going to do for the inside of my glove box. Like I said, I think I'll prime it, and then I'll come in here and cover it with this 16-inch neoprene. I ordered 3 sheets, 12 by 24 inch sheets. I just contact that in there with some nice contact and we'll call her good. Got a lot of little stuff to do yet. I don't like this area right here. I don't really like that. So what'll end up happening is I will have a pilot made. So what I did was I ended up buying a hole saw that is this outside diameter of this washer here. So I'm going to use the threaded part of the fastener that is welded inside the frame to run my pilot in, and then that'll saw this out, and then I'll be able to lay the same size washer back in there again flush, and then weld it all the way around. Then I'll probably do some Allen stainless steel button screws, or panhead screws, and a nice stainless steel washer to finish that off, because I don't like that. I don't want to have to do body work around that. I think that'd be a real pain in the butt, so I'm going to go ahead and go against that, and that's how I'm going to fix these 4 areas on each side of this fender, because that's what it's supposed to look like right there, which I suppose I could make something to press that in there, but I'm not even going to mess with it. I'm just going to make it flush and go on. So anyway, that's what's going to happen there. The brakes are done on here. They're all taken care of, and all the reliefs are plasma cut in. I have to weld up a bracket for the bumper stops, which are in this box of stuff somewhere. I need to get my fuel cell out here, my battery out here, and start doing all that jazz. And I also have to start making the tooling to plasma cut my gauges out. I did order a hole saw for that, and I may go ahead and try to just use a hole saw to cut these gauges in, but I don't know how that'll work out. We'll see. I'll do a plasma cutter on there if I have to. I have to order all the air conditioning stuff yet. I don't have my mini Gen 2 air conditioning deal yet. None of the bulkhead fittings have been ordered. I need to order all that and find out where all that's going to go. I need to get to a point where I can go ahead and weld the floor in for good. Get all these Clecos out of here. And this and that. That's about it. I got a transmission cooler that has a built-in fan on it that I need to get AN fittings TIG welded on to match the input and output of the transmission cooler that's on the transmission, the inlet and the outlet, I guess I should say, of the transmission. I have AN fittings on that, so I'm going to go ahead and do the AN fittings on the cooler as well. Probably should have bought a fucking cooler with AN fittings already on it, but I didn't. So anyway, I gotta get that taken care of. Basically just do a bunch of cleanup. Like I said, I got a lot of little stuff to do. That's why I take notes like everybody else. When you do something like this, I mean, hell, you'd probably have a hard time remembering all the stuff you have to do if you didn't take notes. So that's what I do. If I'm sitting around thinking about something that I need to do, I'll go come out and write it down so I don't forget about it. That way, sometimes I come out here and I just try to get a couple of my deals checked off, done and checked off. But anyway, guys, that's where I'm at. Thanks for watching. Bye.